Hello. How's it going? It's January 10th, Sunday, January 10th, 2021. This is my first live stream of 2021. Do I look tired? It's been a hell of a few days. If you don't know the news, some people are saying here, I am now a daddy. I have a little boy. It's been amazing so far. It's been like 3 days. I am exhausted. Thankfully, I have some help now. So my significant other doesn't have to do all the work. So for the next few days, my mom is over helping us. So thankfully, we all have COVID tests. We're all clean, so no worries there. But yeah, I had to drag myself away to do something because I have missed pretty much everything. I feel like I didn't realize this, but apparently I'm the glue that holds the world together. So once I leave YouTube for a few days, everything falls apart. So that's now why I'm here, hopefully to put the pieces back together before anything gets even crazier. But I'm going to try to catch up. I prepped some things. This is not going to be your typical rational live stream. This is more like how my Twitch streams would normally go. More conversational. I'm going to be talking to the chat, looking at the chat. I'm going to be taking super chats, of course, also taking any random chats that I may see pop up, and try to catch up to everything I missed. I will comment on everything. Yes, everything. I am no longer holding back on some of the things that I've been holding back on for various reasons. I just feel like, what's the point now? And by the way, some of these things I've been holding back on, I think it's kind of obvious, which is why I felt like there wasn't a need to speak out, but at some point you need to speak out at the bullshit going on. So yeah, no more holding back, no holds barred stream. Ask away, open to all questions. Let me start though with some things that I've prepped. God, by the way, if I seem a little out of it, it's just because I haven't done this in at least 2 weeks. I don't think I've done a live stream since before Christmas. And add having a child to that, and I've maybe slept 6 solid hours in the past 3 days, maybe. So yeah, I may seem a little out of it occasionally, but don't worry, I'm here, I'm listening. We'll get through this together. And also, some things that you may bring up, I may know nothing about, so I may not have proper commentary on some of the news stories going on because I just haven't had time to read anything. I've been taking care of my baby. I have more important things to do right now. That said, of course, I want to be engaged here. So let me start taking some super chats that I see coming in before I get to some of these prepped stories that I have. That Indian dude sends a very generous super chat saying, I should have seen this coming back when COVID first kicked off. A lot of these Trumpists said that the virus itself is a hoax. If you can believe the earth is flat, then you can believe the election is fraudulent. Fair enough. There was somebody, there was a journalist that had predicted this very thing before Christmas. They had a long Twitter thread about it. I think Majority Report covered this. So I forget who tweeted it out, but basically they said, hey, this is what the right's getting together right now. They're going to plan this, I don't know, insurrection or mob, whatever the hell you want to call it, coup. They're going to plan this thing on the day that the Electoral College is supposed to be certified, and watch for them to, go and try and storm the Capitol. And the guy predicted it exactly. It's exactly what happened. Now, of course, it's hard to, seeing a tweet thread like that beforehand, which I didn't, but if, say I did see it, I'm not sure I would have believed that it would actually happen. It's the kind of thing where you don't really, it's hard to believe until it happens. And that was actually the last video I did was on the storming of the Capitol. That was the day that we had to go to the hospital for the baby. So I threw together something in the short time that I had. But then there was more fallout from that, and then Twitter banned Trump and a lot of stuff to talk about there. I got some clips I want to share that I haven't even watched, but I tagged them for myself, bookmarked them to watch them later. So we'll get to all that. But yeah, as you said, if there's going to be people that believe that COVID is a hoax, then of course you're going to have people that are so crazy that they're going to take a flight to the Capitol, including some people on private jets apparently, to the Capitol. This is not the working class storming the Capitol. These are just crazy people storming the Capitol. Not all that shocking, I guess, now that it's happened, when you see that people believe the shit that they believe. Mateus N says, congrats, David. You deserve it. 2021 starting strong. Yes. So let me just give you a little backstory. You may have seen my content before. I don't get very personal. I don't really discuss my personal life. I think it's not fair to the people in my life for me to put them, in the spotlight, or, talk about them when they didn't choose to have somebody who, does YouTube for a living. But we decided to have this child because I initially did not want to have a kid. I just didn't have a desire to. But COVID happened, and then Bernie Sanders dropped out, and we decided, you know what? We need to put some goodness into this world. There are a lot of horrible people that are in power, and basically, if we have any hope of turning this around, we need people that actually care about the world, care about society, that have empathy for people. We need those people to have children. That's how we populate the world with good people. So our thinking was, look, the world kind of sucks right now. How about if we are real about wanting to change the world and invest into society, then we have to be a part of that. So I think for us, having a kid was sort of the way to, it was sort of like an investment into trying to create a better world. Being on YouTube is one thing, and doing this and informing you all, of course I enjoy this, but I also want to raise somebody who is intelligent, who is knowledgeable, who is empathetic, most importantly, and who wants to have some kind of positive impact on the world. So that was definitely a major part of the decision. And 2021 definitely starting strong, and I hope it, at least for me personally, and I hope it continues. I know a lot of everything else going on, it's just an extension of 2020, but at least personally, we hope to have a good year. Rachel says, congratulations, David. Love seeing good people, bringing more good people into this world. Thank you, Rachel. Alexandria McCurtis says, goodness, you went and had a quarantine baby on us. Congrats. Thank you, Alexandria. Darren Butler says, oh my God, congrats, David. Love to you and baby's mom. Thank you, Darren. And I'll get to some stories in a minute. Don't worry. It won't all be chats, though. I love all your chats and I love all the support coming in, especially after taking a few days off YouTube. You will notice, if you do YouTube for a living, they basically kick you out of the algorithm if you disappear for a few days. So it's good to see the audience I have right now that I'm not, completely forgotten here. So thank you all for the support so far. Andrea Haas says, as a single mom, the sleep deprivation the first 4 months was almost unbearable. He's 3 now. I survived. LOL. Congrats on the new baby. Thank you, Andrea. I also don't, I know there are a lot of people watching that don't have kids, and I don't want to make this stream about, or I don't want to make my content about, it, like, the stuff I do is not going to change because I have a kid. It's going to be maybe more informed, especially on certain issues. But don't feel like you're going to be, somehow cut out of the conversation now that I have a child. And because I know as somebody who didn't have kids, watching people talk about their kids all the time, it can get grating. So I'm not going to be one of those people, but this is the first stream back, so you're going to get some updates on that. So of course I'm going to talk a little more about it now than I generally will. But thank you, Andrea. Anyways, Lawn Gnomes says, congrats to you and your growing family, David. Any New Year's resolutions that have survived the first week? I made no New Year's resolutions. I guess one now is just to raise a fantastic child. So that's kind of my life resolution at this point. Brenda R says, congratulations. He is lucky to have you as his dad. Thank you, Brenda. John Thomas, thank you for becoming a member. Kyle Lena Kucha says, so in Canadian news, if you don't know, David, there's a Facebook page trending titled O'Toole for PM. Well, he is a major party leader, so I'm sure there's going to be a Facebook group that wants him to see as the prime minister. But yeah, I have not really been following at all what's happening in Canada. So I have no idea. Sorry. As you can see, I have no voice, no brain, no nothing. All right. Goku just saying says, Sidney Powell hit with $1.3 billion lawsuit by Dominion. Farron Cousins did a short clip of how and why. Awesome. I got to look into that. Seaweed. I got to pause in a minute on these super chats, though I will get back to them just to do some more stories. But Seaweedy Dragon says, yay. Hi, David. Congratulations. Thank you. Cyrus 1976 says, the Kraken, Sidney Powell, is getting sued for $1.5 billion. Yes, someone else said that. I love it. Devils says, congrats, David. Thank you. All right, I'm going to stop there. Take a little pause. Let's take a look at some things I have not watched. So, what did I save here? Basically, this is like whenever I had a break, not whenever, but occasionally when I had a break, I would check Twitter, see what's going on. I would bookmark some things. Largely today, actually, I bookmarked a bunch. But let me see here. Okay. So I'll get to the Twitter banning Trump. If somebody prompts me with a question about it, maybe that will be my jump into it. But let me start first. I have not watched this, but it's good to have some potentially positive thing to watch to start this off. Bernie Sanders on making sure Biden keeps his progressive promises. So Case Study QB posted this. Let's check this out.
Before the 2020 election.
It is really low. Hold on, that's my problem here.
Election, Senator Bernie.
I'm getting like reacquainted to all the things I used to do. It's been a while. All right, here we go.
Before the 2020 election, Senator Bernie Sanders told me that he would strive to make Joe Biden the most progressive president in the nation's history. That goal became a whole lot more plausible this past week as Democrats won both Senate runoff elections in Georgia, allowing them to retake control of Congress's upper chamber, the Senate. A unified government. Imagine that. Now, a lot of the Biden administration's policy plans are likely to come to fruition. So, too, are some progressive policies that previously had little hope of passing in a Republican-held Senate. One of the very first items on the docket is passing and signing a COVID relief bill that includes $2,000 direct payments to millions of Americans. Joining me now is Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Senator Sanders, good to see you. Interestingly enough, your partner, your Republican partner in trying to get bigger payments to Americans was Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, who got really weird in the last week or so. But you do now have Democratic support to get these higher checks. So is that going to be first on your agenda?
Ali, we have to recognize that right now this country faces an unprecedented set of crises. The healthcare pandemic, the economy, climate change, the very threat to democracy. And what has got to happen is, to my mind, the Democratic Congress and President Biden are going to have to move aggressively to address these crises. And that means way up there. First order of business is to understand that people in America are struggling to feed their kids. They're struggling to prevent eviction. They're struggling to be able to afford to go to the doctor. First thing we got to do is to make sure that every working class family in America gets on top of that $600 that hopefully many families are now getting. They get another $1,400 per person, including children. Second of all, what we have got to do is not only address the immediate emergency, we got to work on job creation, creating millions of good-paying jobs, rebuilding our infrastructure, and addressing the climate change crisis. We can create millions of jobs by retrofitting our homes, moving to sustainable.
So far, basically campaign promises, but let me see if he has a plan. There's a few clips here to actually hold Joe Biden accountable. And really, before we even get into this, I mean, the real way to hold Joe Biden accountable is to instigate a mass movement of people as senator, as the squad, and into a large march for it can't be general issues. It has to be a specific, or a few specific issues. Medicare for all, reparations, which I want to talk a lot more about, but I think that should also be a big push as well. Reparations, Medicare for all, Green New Deal. Have a march for very specific policy issues. Unlike, Occupy Wall Street, it was great to have that moment, but there wasn't really a set of policies behind it. So if any of these Congress people or senators are going to push for some kind of mobilization, they have to make it specific, and they should be doing that. I mean, that's the one area where they do have a lot of power, is over the public, what the public can do. In terms of their, job in Congress, their power is limited based on the fact that there isn't a lot of them. But their power in the public, I mean, that's where they have a lot of their power. So by mobilizing other people to fight for specific things, and maybe also, have an action plan, so it's not just a general march for specific issues, but also, hey, they're marching for this because this is exactly what these Congress people, these senators can do to push these issues forward, so that they're actually passed and pushed through. So I hope that's part of the plan, but let's see what else Bernie has to say here.
Sustainable energy in many many respects.
Let's talk about health care. This is the thing you and I have talked about for a very, very long time, because we share a view on how there can be a better health care system. Obviously, you and Joe Biden don't exactly share the same view of what should happen, but you do definitely share a view that a lot more Americans should be insured than currently are. And that situation has only worsened because of coronavirus, because stupidly we connect health care to our jobs in this country. So lots of people have lost their jobs, and a whole lot of people got coronavirus, which then puts them into the category of having pre-existing conditions and making it harder for them to get insurance. What's the working solution to this in the immediate and even the midterm future?
Look, Ali, I agree with you. At the end of the day, this current cruel, dysfunctional, and wasteful healthcare system has got to end. We need to do what Canada does. We need to do what countries all over the world do. Guarantee healthcare to all people as a human right, not a jobs benefit. End the absurdity of spending 10 times more, in some cases, for prescription drugs than do countries all over the world.
Before he goes on here, since I now have some more experience with our healthcare system in Canada, let me just say, I don't know how much a baby would have cost us, because it took us a few days. We had to be in the hospital for, I think it was 2.5 days. I completely lost track of the week. When it was Friday, I thought it was Thursday. I didn't even know what day it was. But we had to be there longer because there were extra health complications going on with our situation. And if we had to pay for that, pay for something that wasn't our fault, it is such an insane system. And just the healthcare that we received was so incredible. The nurses, especially. The nurses, oh my God, the nurses deserve so much credit in the world. They are just the greatest people. The amount of care and attention and love they showed, and that they do this all the time with everybody. And I don't know how they don't form personal attachments with the people that they are helping, because they are so incredible in their work, in their job. They were just amazing. But yeah, we had issues where it would have cost the average American, I'm sure, a lot more than it cost us, obviously, as it cost us nothing. We went to the hospital, stayed there for a few days. We got some paperwork telling us, what we should do in terms of seeing a doctor, seeing our family doctor next, doing some other stuff. And that was it. There was no, I don't have to talk to an insurance company. I don't have to do anything. That was it. We just came home. We came home. That was it. So I'm not even sure, because I don't live in America. I'm not sure what the exact how that breaks down in the U.S. But I know, obviously, your insurance company has to play into that. Obviously, there has to be you have to be able to ensure you're covered for certain things, and there's a lot of work involved just based on insurance after you have something like a surgery or a child that the average person in other countries just don't have, because their healthcare is guaranteed to them. There is no need to. It is a single payer system. You pay into it, so it's free at the point of use. I feel bad for couples in the U.S. that want to have kids, because one, financially, it's incredibly hard right now for most people my age to have kids, but also the healthcare situation is just crazy. So my heart goes out to anybody out there in the U.S., especially trying to have kids, and it's just you're beating yourself up against a brick wall that is the American healthcare system.
It has to be addressed immediately. That's my view. That is not the president-elect's view. But short term, what we can do for a start is lower the eligibility age of Medicare from 65. I would go down to 55 in the first year. Joe Biden wants to go to 60. We can certainly expand health care coverage in a variety of ways. We can make sure that we have community health centers located, new community health centers all over this country, so that anybody without insurance will be able to walk into a medical home and get the care that we need. And also, we've got to have the courage to take on the greed and corruption of the pharmaceutical industry, lower drug costs in this country.
One of these days, you and I need to sit and have a conversation just about community health centers and the role, the remarkably important role they play in this country, and how to fund them better. One of the things that Joe Biden has talked about is not getting too crazy about the deficit. Republicans always have this issue with we can't spend when it's on the backs of regular people getting money, but zero issue.
Ali Velshi, of course, also Canadian, so he gets this a lot more than the average MSNBC host does. Honestly, in terms of the actual network of MSNBC, and not just their app, the Peacock app, which also has Mehdi Hassan, Sam Cedar, and others on there that also are a lot more progressive than the average MSNBC host. But Ali Velshi's got to be the best guy on the network, and part of it is definitely because he's Canadian and he understands these issues a lot better than the average host does. And also, when he was covering the Black Lives Matter protests, I mean, he was out there reporting on how the police were instigating the violence, and very few people in the media were doing that. So Ali Velshi definitely deserves credit here for being a lot better than the average news host.
Issue when it comes to
I keep forgetting to turn this up.
Tax cuts. Joe Biden seems to share a little more of your view on the idea that maybe we shouldn't be as sort of perversely obsessed with deficit increases as Republicans are.
Ali, you don't know how much this Republican rhetoric drives me crazy. When it comes to tax breaks for billionaires, hey, no deficit problem. Spending $740 billion on the military, not a problem. Massive amounts of corporate welfare, that's fine. But when it comes to helping people who are struggling to feed their families or to prevent being evicted from their homes, oh my God, we have this terrible deficit. Bottom line is Joe Biden is exactly right. Interest rates are now low. We've got to invest in the American people. We got to deal with the pandemic, make sure these vaccines getting out in the timeline that they should much faster than is currently the case. We have to create millions of jobs as we rebuild the economy.
And it seems obvious, right? With interest rates as low as they are, we can have some current version of an infrastructure project. This last administration kept holding the infrastructure weeks, but nothing ever happened. We know our health infrastructure is weak. We've learned that. There can be some real ways in which you can utilize low interest money that can benefit America for 50 or 100 years.
Ali, that is absolutely correct. There's nobody in the United States Congress will deny that our infrastructure, roads, bridges, tunnels, wastewater plants, water systems, affordable housing. We have desperate infrastructure needs in this country. And in terms of healthcare, we need more doctors, we need more nurses, we need more community health centers. So we can create millions of important, meaningful jobs, rebuilding our infrastructure, combating climate change, improving our healthcare system. And that is exactly what we have to do. And I should tell you, I will be the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. All
right, before Bernie gets onto that stuff, before I forget this point in my head, one way to talk about Medicare for all to conservatives or people who don't think it's a good idea is to tell them that your Congress people would be on the exact same healthcare plan as you would be. Your Congress people and the wealthiest people in the country would have the exact same healthcare plan that they would. Because one of the big issues that is shared between conservatives and progressives is that we are all angry for different reasons or have different solutions, but we're all aware of of how there's the haves and have-nots, of how people with wealth or privilege or power, or even if it's just anger at government, how people in government, when it comes to conservatives, understand that those people have certain privileges that you don't, that the average person doesn't. So by telling them that, hey, under a Medicare for all single payer system, your congressperson, your senator, Nancy Pelosi, is going to have the exact same healthcare plan as you would. All of a sudden, maybe the idea sounds a little better than it had before. So I think it's important to be able to discuss these issues in a way where it has a real world impact and a real world understanding, and not just discussing it or theorizing about it, but discussing how it would actually be implemented in the sense that this is a single healthcare system for everybody in the country, regardless of your income, regardless of your position, regardless of your power. You have the same healthcare as everybody else. So I think it's incredibly important to say that, because you can say, look, how bad can the healthcare really get if your congressperson, your senator is going to have the exact same healthcare as you are? How bad are they really going to let it get if they have the same healthcare as you do? So I think that's an important point that that people out there, if you're trying to convince friends, family, bring that up. Okay, ending this clip and then one more clip, and then I'll get to super chats, and of course there's more stories I'll discuss as well.
When we put together a reconciliation bill, which will need only 50 votes, 51 votes, I have those ideas in mind.
We will talk about that. I want to talk about the current issue right now, impeachment.
Yeah, so Bernie's going to be the chair of the Senate Budget Committee. Fan-friggin-tastic. This is the one time where I'm happy that the Democratic Party works on seniority, because if that was not the case, he would not be in that position. But because they work on seniority, even though he's independent, he's caucuses with Democrats, he is now going to have a very, very powerful position because Democrats hold the Senate. All right, last clip here.
January 8th, some people ask, why Why would you impeach and convict a president who has only a few days left in office? The answer, precedent. It must be made clear that no president now or in the future can lead an insurrection against the U.S. government. I take it that means that if the impeachment gets to a Senate trial, you will support impeaching the president of the United States?
Yeah, I will. And again, people will say, well, why are you wasting your time? Why are you doing this? Trump has a week left. Isn't it stupid? And the answer is no, it is not. The word has got to go out, not just for this president, but for future presidents, that we have a constitution, we have rules of law in this country, and you cannot aid and abet an insurrection and not be impeached. So I think from a precedent point of view, going forward and impeaching Trump is the right thing to do.
So let's talk about it from a practical point of view. It does look like the House can get this done possibly this week. Mitch McConnell says an impeachment trial could not begin in the Senate until January 19th. January 20th is the inauguration. You're a guy who actually understands parliamentary procedure because you engaged in it, I think, about 2 weeks ago with respect to these relief checks. How do you understand this from a process perspective?
My understanding is Mitch McConnell does not want to do it. If he had the will to do it, it could be done. We would have to accelerate normal processes, but if Leader McConnell wanted to do it, it certainly could be done. And in my view, it should be done.
All right. So, of course, I support impeaching Trump again. And maybe he could be convicted. I don't. Again, I need to read more into how this whole process would work in the last week of Trump. But there's no reason not to. Yeah, of course. Of course he should be impeached. Of course. All right. Let me get to some more super chats, and then I'll get to some more stories and maybe discuss a bit about Trump getting banned from Twitter, as there appears to be some disagreements over this. But we'll get there. Maybe somebody will ask a very pointed question. I'll be able to answer it properly. But let me grab a chat here. All right, picking up our left off in Super Chats, Raven Steals the Night says, congrats on the new baby. Also, don't cut your hair. At some point, I got to trim it, but there's still a shutdown happening in Ontario. Canada not doing good right now with COVID, which I got to say, being in a hospital for 3 days during the height of COVID, a little anxiety inducing, but because of some of the complications we were having during the labor process, we did have a COVID test done. Didn't have COVID, so very happy about that. But and also, of course, they're very safe. I mean, everybody's wearing a mask. Every room they're in and out of, they're like the doctors and nurses, they are sanitizing their hands. So it was very well done at the hospital, as best as they could possibly be for the situation. But yeah, once I feel safe to get a haircut, I will definitely get a trim. But I think I'm keeping the long hair for the most part. I'm looking back at old videos. I saw some, like, maybe I'll bring one up now just to laugh. But if you go back like a year, I just look like a different person. Like I feel like I am a different person than I was a year ago, just based on the haircut alone. Let me see what I can bring up. Let's see here. Man, I like forgot how to use YouTube. That's how long it's been. Let me grab a video. Here we go. Sort by most popular. Get an old video here. This is really embarrassing. That's how I used to look. That's me. I'm not going to cut my hair to that again. I'm sorry. It's just, I can't do it. I'm not this person anymore. I don't know who this is. This is some other David. I'm not sure who that guy is. So I will not be going back to that haircut. But I will be cutting my hair. Just, it's not going to be that short. Where was I? Here we go. Harris Rudolph says, congratulations, super stoked for the dad vlogs. Actually, yes. You know what? Thank you for bringing this up because I am horrible at advertising myself. rationalnational.com/join. If you do want a little more on my personal life, day-to-day stuff, I haven't done much vlogging. at all. I put one video up asking people should I do vlogs, but I want to do this. So for patrons, I'm going to be a little more personal. I'm going to do basically just phone videos, but tell you what's going on, maybe give you updates on the kid. But here's the thing. I want him to decide whether or not, like, I'm not going to discuss his name. I'm not going to make him a public person when he did not decide to be a public person. So you're not going to get pics of his face. You're not going to get any of that stuff. I will just discuss how I'm doing, how our family is doing, what we're doing, and also based on just discussing, behind the scenes stuff in terms of maybe get a little more deeper on some issues, some videos, maybe say things I don't want to talk about on the YouTube channel, but I'll talk about for the patrons. So I do want to do a lot more of that. rationalnational.com/join, become a patron or become a member on YouTube. I will also post the videos on YouTube as well if you hit join on YouTube. But just to be honest, I prefer Patreon. They take less of the money coming in. They take less of your money. It actually goes to me. YouTube takes like 25%, something crazy. But still, if you're a member on YouTube, don't worry about it. You'll get the updates. But there you go. I'll give you some more personal behind the scenes stuff. Jonathan Boyle says, "Congrats, David. You will make a great dad." Thank you, Jonathan. Scully's Tie says, "For the diaper and beer fund." Thank you. After this stream, I'm going to drink some beer. My dad bought me some beer for this to celebrate the birth, and definitely going to be jumping into that after the stream. Lawrence says, "Congrats, and you should really sleep." Believe me, I've tried. Right now, our child appears to think that night is day and day is night. So I was up maybe 6 times last night. Got like a solid hour, then wake up. Maybe got like a solid half an hour, then wake up. But it's a problem with me, especially because I have a hard time falling asleep. So by the time I like just fall asleep and then I have to wake up again. It's not. The funny thing is, though, I thought it would frustrate me more. I'm not bothered at all by any of this. I'm actually enjoying all of it. Of course, it would be nice to have more sleep, but I'm not like angry that I'm not sleeping. It's perfectly fine. It's part of the process. I am so happy that I'm a dad, and it's just begun. And really, it's made me more excited to become older. Before this, I really hated getting older. I hated the fact that I was 35 years old and I felt like I was like in my 20s and I didn't want to get older. But now I'm actually looking forward to getting older so I can grow up with my boy and raise him. So that's one of the big benefits, I think, of having a child. Breadbox says, "Does it bother you that Nancy Pelosi did indeed try to orchestrate a military coup by definition? Does it bother you that Nancy Pelosi did indeed try to orchestrate a military coup by definition, requesting to ignore president's military orders?" I don't even understand your question. As I said, if there is something to what you're saying, I didn't read about it as I had a child, so I have no idea. But what you're saying sounds kind of crazy and ridiculous, so I don't know. Jericho Anderson says, "Congrats, David. I preach empathy to my kids every day. It's one of the most important things to teach them." Absolutely. Geodude says, "Congrats on the kid, David. You're my favorite Canuck next to Bret Hart." Thank you, Geodude. Samantha Sider says, "Congratulations on becoming a father." Thank you. Beefy Weefy says, "Congratulations." Thank you so much. Vic A says, "You're my favorite news guy." Thank you, Vic. Much appreciated. Maja says, "Congrats on becoming a dad. Can you explain why Trump being able to pardon himself and those close to him is a thing? I don't get why it's allowed." I hear you. I don't get it either. There's a lot that's gone on during this presidency that is simply not allowed, but he got away with it. How many times has he broken the emoluments clause? Like, I've lost count. So, I mean, and think of how fast the news cycle goes. Like, he was doing that. He was campaigning at the White House, which is not allowed. That's also apparently a violation of what he is supposed to be doing, and never held accountable. Like, just there is really an endless list of things, and it's really easy to forget about all of it because there was so much. So much. Thank God he is out in a week. But we should not let the Democrats, and especially Joe Biden, forget about Donald Trump. They have to hold him accountable. If he broke the law, if they can go after him, then they should go after him. Abso-friggin-lutely, they should go after him. Do I think they will? No. But should they? Absolutely. Lost my place, sorry. This thing auto-scrolls sometimes. Okay. Nick Martiros says, congrats, David. What are some of the ways to get involved in local and national politics and to fight a Joe Biden presidency during the next 4 years? Join local political groups, whether it's DSA, Black Lives Matter. Join a local campaign. Somebody running, just for a local race, a statewide race, and of course for congressional races, just see if you can volunteer, get involved. There are many ways. I mean, if you have free time, definitely volunteer for somebody running for a position that definitely join somebody who you believe in that's running for a position of power within government, whether it's local, statewide, national. Definitely get involved. Gina McGrath. Also, by the way, I should say unions, of course, as well. A very important piece. If you're a part of a union, make sure you are, in the meetings, you are discussing how you're using your power to push the conversation forward, how to improve the lives for your members and also just society in general. Definitely, there's many ways to be involved. Gina McGrath says, glad you're back, David, and congrats on the baby. Isn't it kind of depressing that Susan Collins is more for stimulus than Joe Manchin is? Yeah, I heard that. Joe Manchin doesn't want to support the 2000. This is what you have to do. You have to tie the stimulus to like something that involves West Virginia specifically. So be like, hey, you get 2,000. Actually, sorry, the Majority Report discussed this as well. I think they got a comment in or something that mentioned this. But tie the $2,000 to say coal miners. Coal miners get an extra 500. Do it so it puts Joe Manchin in a position where he has to full on reject his own constituency. Now, he already sort of is rejecting them by not supporting the 2000. And really, I can't even his supporters, if you can call them that, but the people that vote for Joe Manchin, they have to support the $2,000. I mean, a lot of these people are Trump supporters or voted for Trump, and Trump supports the $2,000, at least rhetorically. I really don't know how this benefits Joe Manchin to be against it. I just don't know how in any way it benefits him. So we're gonna see if he folds to pressure. Chuck Schumer, of course, should be doing whatever he can as leader to push Joe Manchin in the correct position. But man, what a complete disaster Joe Manchin is and will continue to be. And that's the only major downside to Democrats now having the Senate is that Joe Manchin, we're going to see a lot more of him. He's going to be on television. He loves the attention. He's going to be basically the deciding vote in so many fights. So you have to begin the primary challenge now to him, whenever that is. I guess it's in like 4 years, I think. But begin that challenge now, because that man cannot stay where he is. AJ Dunes, thank you for the super chat. Christian Veneman says, congrats on being a dad. Thank you, Christian. Shane O'Sullivan says, bro, your hair is looking as good as I wish the left did. Thank you, Shane. Sam O says, though, thought on Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz making a profit on the incident and still object to the results and demand for them to resign / expelled from political office. I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but yeah. So Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz were part of this whole thing, of the storm, the storm on the Capitol. I don't know what people are calling it now. The mob, the MAGA mob. But yeah, they were before it was happening. They were all for it, and absolutely, they should be expelled. These are people you cannot allow. I don't care what their motivations are. I don't care if they're doing it because they want the Trump base, which I think largely that is the reason. But the reality is they are governing as fascists. and they need to be held accountable. So, of course, hold them accountable to the full extent in whatever way that is. Again, I've had 3 days off, so not a lot of research from me in the past 3 days on how exactly to expel them. But I did see Ilhan Omar and Cori Bush push that forward. If there was a way to get people like Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz out, I'm not sure if that was just for Congress people, but also senators or not. But yeah, if there's a way to push that forward, it's a no-brainer. Adrian Rutledge says, congratulations on the new baby. Your hair is 2 months from Rockstar Jesus. Yeah, it's getting crazy. HB says, how does having the Insurrection Act signed by President Trump affect us? I have no idea. Again, I just had a baby. That's my excuse now for everything. If I don't know the answer, I just had a baby. I don't know what's going on. Awesome, tacular news for the new year, David. Congrats on you and your family. Thanks for a Capricorn future humanitarian. I have not read up on the Capricorns. I myself am a Scorpio. All this stuff, of course, means nothing, but it's fun to think about sometimes, just for whatever. So I got to read about the Capricorns. Saxena says, for those who say not to punish Trump because his followers would be upset, would they say not to punish terrorist leaders because their followers would be upset? Don't we need accountability? Is that an argument people are using? Don't punish Trump because his followers would... Actually, that is an argument. That's what Joe Biden's saying. No, we have to move on. We have to turn the page on this era, because that's how you ensure that that anybody in the future who wants to pull the same thing, I mean, there has to be obviously some set of standards here for what is acceptable. You have to punish Trump. The country is not going to be able to heal unless there is some accountability here. Do you really think that by being kind to Donald Trump, that his supporters are all of a sudden going to, oh, it seems Democrats are so reasonable now. Well, you know what? I've changed my mind. I like Joe Biden. I think he's doing a great job. Like, what do these people think are going to happen? No, you have to hold these leaders accountable. Even if you thought stupidly that it would make them, that not doing so would make his supporters become better people, you still have to hold Trump accountable. Abso-friggin-lutely. Sweet Baby Bladefoot says, great choice keeping your... Hold up. It auto-scrolled. Great choice keeping your baby kid off the internet. I choose to be online. Some kids today have their whole lives documented, which I find kind of weird. I mean, I'm not going to criticize anybody who does that. The thing is, I'm a public figure, at least in some sense of the word. So I don't want to... I'm not going to do that to him if he doesn't want to be somebody who is public, or doesn't want to be somebody who's out there on the internet. Javier Ramirez says, LOL, congratulations. Thank you. Nursherific says, congrats, David. Thank you. Kai H says, I haven't been keeping up on news about you, life. Congrats, and bless you and your family. Thank you. Don't worry, I haven't been telling anybody about this. In fact, So when I first found out that we were pregnant, I posted the ultrasound on Instagram. This was, I guess, 9 months ago or 8 months ago. And that was it. I think some people got it. Some people didn't. I don't have many followers on Instagram, so most people had no idea I had a kid on the way. But that was really the only time I said anything at all. Until today, or until I tweeted about it. After Fractures says, any thoughts on Force the Vote? Here we go. This is what you all been waiting for. Any thoughts on Force the Vote? I feel like some left-wingers are being way too quick to smear good politicians over what is essentially a strategy disagreement. Yes, obviously. So when this first happened, I know it's crazy we're still talking about this since the moment's passed, but there has to be some closure on the insanity that took place. When the idea came up, I was not against it. In fact, I supported it. I did a video saying, yeah, if the people in Congress, if the squad and other progressives, if they want to push this idea forward where they will use their power to force a floor vote on Medicare for all, good. I took the position that David Sirota took because I think he had a more informed position on it, discussing the actual barriers in place in terms of getting Medicare for all passed. So Richie Neal, being on the Ways and Means Committee, getting him out of there, because Neal takes like I think he takes the most money from insurance companies out of anybody in Congress, including Republicans. So getting Rich Neal out of that position, major piece of it. Also, PAYGO, getting rid of PAYGO, which they did, at least for. So I want to be objective in context here. So my understanding is, again, I've been gone for 3 days. Maybe this isn't the case, but last I read, PAYGO is not going to be if something like Medicare for All is instituted or trying to get instituted during a pandemic like this, or any time where they feel it requires major spending, then PAYGO is not going to be a barrier. PAYGO still exists. It's still going to be an issue when it comes to any sort of government spending, but it would be less of an issue during a crisis. Is my reading of what went on. So there appears to be some good progress there. Clearly, it's not enough, but you get down to the issue being that there's only so many of them. In terms of their power within government, you can't expect them to get Medicare for all passed in 2 years. Do people understand how long the Tea Party took? I mean, we're talking about, yes, the Tea Party itself didn't really exist in the 80s, but it was growing then. Grew into the 90s, grew into the 2000s until it became the Tea Party. It took a while for that, and they had real money behind them. Understand, the left doesn't have billionaire money. There isn't unlimited money to support people on the left. So there is limited ability here right now to get people that support these issues into Congress. But at the same time, that should be the focus, primarying out these horrible Democrats with people that are great, focusing on people that have power in the Democratic Party, like Elliot Engel getting out, fantastic. Steny Hoyer getting out, fantastic. Lacey Clay getting out, fantastic. Keep going. Keep it going. That's exactly what they're doing. In terms of that strategy, in terms of the Justice Democrats, they're doing a great job. They need to continue doing that. Continue doing what you're doing. They're doing good. But in terms of what they could be doing as well, in terms of the members of Congress, as I discussed earlier, where their power is right now is in the public. So what they could possibly be doing, along with, say, Bernie Sanders, is try and instigate a massive march for a particular issue or various particular issues, organize a massive march along with union organizers, along with unions, big progressive groups, organize that to help push for some of these issues. Now, doing so during a pandemic, I understand the reason not to right now. Probably not a great time to have 1 million people all bunched together in Washington, D.C., especially people that we like and we need to be alive moving forward to push all of this stuff. So maybe isn't the best time right now, but once the vaccine rollout happens and for the most part people are safe, definitely I think that's where their power currently is, until they have the ability to join with others and create a real mass caucus within the Democratic Party to actually push some of these ideas forward. Their only real power right now is through the public. So the other side of this, though, that honestly I thought was obvious. I thought I didn't have to talk about this. I thought it was obvious. But let me put it this way. If I want you to join me to do something, hey, I have this great idea. I have this business I want to start. I want you to join me. If I start that conversation by calling you a coward, by calling you a sellout, by insulting you, how likely are you to join my cause? Like, isn't this obvious? If you talk shit about somebody to their face and you want that person to join you, are you really surprised when they don't? And it's amazing to me that the people, we know who we're talking about here, the people that are doing this pushing, if we use the exact same strategy on them, called them a coward, called them a sellout, do you really think that person, those people, would join us in our strategy? Like, this shit should be obvious. I shouldn't have to say this, but that's not how you persuade people to join your movement. Again, if you're fighting people who you don't expect to join you, who you don't need to join you to instigate your thing, then fine. If you want to criticize them to grow support for whatever you're doing, yeah, I get it. But if your plan is to get these people on board with you, starting the conversation by calling them cowards, sellouts or liking tweets that are calling them a bitch, probably not a great idea. But you know, some people don't exactly know how to instigate. Maybe they have good ideas, but they don't exactly know how to implement the ideas that they have. And also at the same time, if you're wondering why people out there are questioning your motives, that's why. You may have pure motives, and you may just think that calling somebody a coward is a great way to get them on board with you. But you can understand why somebody would question your motives if that is your tactic in getting somebody on board with you. So you shouldn't be surprised if people are a little apprehensive to what you are saying, what you are doing, when the tactic to get people on board is by screaming at their face. This shit should be obvious, but apparently it's really hard to understand. I mean, honestly, just think, if somebody is yelling at you, are you more likely, yelling at you, calling you names, criticizing you, are you more or less likely to join with them in what they are doing? Most people, less likely. This is just persuasion 101. You have to actually be open. You have to be understanding. You have to be wanting to build relationships. You have to be getting people that they support, that they're joined with, on board. National Nurses United, other unions, like get the groups that actually push these ideas forward. You have to get them on board with you as a way to build this coalition to then put pressure on the people you need in power to join you. But starting off by calling them names, as somebody who supported the idea, pretty dumb tactic to try and grow support for it. But maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But it really should not have been all that surprising to see that it didn't work. Anyways, moving on. Unless there's any more that comes up. Maria says, congratulations. And by the way, before I move on, I've had private conversations with these people, but like, this isn't the kind of thing. This is why I don't do a lot of this on Twitter. I don't get in the drama. It's not worth it, because if my job here is to actually change that person's mind, then the best way to do it, I think, is behind the scenes. Talk to them privately, and I have done that, and I've noticed that they're not listening, and in fact, getting worse. So at some point, you have to discuss this publicly, because if they're just getting worse, then clearly my idea of trying to be understanding, trying to get to them on a personal level isn't working. At some point, you have to discuss this stuff publicly and just be like, yeah, this stuff, that tactic should be obvious in terms of it not working. Should have been obvious from the start. But whatever. Anyways, go back and watch my video on it. I agree with David Sirota's approach, which discussed how to potentially get this through. Anyways, moving on. Maria says, congratulations on your new family. The baby girl is next, methinks. I think I would love it. I would love if it was a girl, boy. I honestly didn't care beforehand. But in terms of having two children, no. Maybe I'll change my mind, but it's so much work already, 3 days in. I can't imagine having a second child. At least not until this one's like grown up. But I don't see it happening. Swirly Swirl says, congrats on the new kid. Thanks for taking the time to go live. Thank you. D Smith says, Boring Company could probably employ every coal miner, especially if it was subsidized like fossil fuel companies. Boring Company. Isn't Boring Company, isn't that, anyway, what's his name? Wow, 3 days, I forgot his name. Doesn't matter. I don't get your question though, but Boring Company could probably employ every coal miner, especially if it was subsidized like fossil fuel company. Oh, that's forget his name. That's the Tesla guy's name. Why do I forget his name? Whatever. Elon Musk. That's his company. I got my my criticisms of Elon Musk that I don't need to discuss right now, because I don't have my thoughts collected. So we'll move on. But I hear what you're saying, though, in terms of subsidies. Yes, fossil fuel companies are subsidized insanely, including in Canada. And we somehow expect to move off of fossil fuels. Now, if this is an idea that's been floated as well, that's, I think, fantastic. In terms of increasing the minimum wage, a lot of small companies, they just have an issue being able to pay their employees properly. They want to pay them properly. And the argument I've always made is if you can't pay your employees properly, then you're not a good business. But if you take away the fossil fuel subsidies, put those subsidies into small businesses to allow them to pay their employees properly, that would be a much better use of those funds, even separate from the discussion on the Green New Deal and climate change. But there are areas where subsidies are actually needed to push the economy forward, push people forward, and fossil fuel companies, of course, they don't need the money. Hosea Wright, thank you for your thumbs up. Hiroshi loves you. How long have I been streaming, by the way, just so I know? Because I do have a child I got to get back to. An hour, okay. I'll try to cover a couple more things, finish these chats. Hiroshi loves you says, imagine the worst economic disaster ever. Everybody's jobless. People die of hunger. Along comes a horrible agitator like Trump, but way less stupid. That happened in my country, Germany, 90 years ago. Great point. Yeah, the issue with Trump is if he was smarter, he would be even more dangerous. It's a good thing he's really stupid. Ekaterina McGuire says, what you said about Biden's wanting to move on, I agree. Someone once said, denying violence empowers violence. Yes, that's a great saying. Denying violence empowers violence. Absolutely. Violet S says, you're doing good work no matter what your hair looks like, man. Are you worried about inauguration at all? I haven't thought much about it till just now. So I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to protest it. Yeah. I don't know. It could get ugly for sure. Mark Davis says MAGA terrorists are planning a Tree of Liberty event at all state capitals on the 17th. That is implying bloodshed with that phrasing. Yeah. I don't know about this, but yeah. This mob on the Capitol was not the end of it. I hope people get that. This was not the end, unfortunately. Mike Maximus says it's easy to not support force to vote when you have health care. As Kyle Klinsky says, if not during a pandemic, when? I support a force to vote. I don't think calling people cowards that you want joining you is a good strategy. Go back and listen to what I just said. Watch my video on force to vote. I supported it. But if you want someone to join you to do it, calling them a coward, a bitch, sellouts, probably not a good way to persuade people to join your movement. Jacob Stenzel says, how do you plan to raise your kid with politics, morality, the intersection, while allowing independence of thought and identity discovery? These are all things that I'll talk about privately. I don't know. These are all things I'll constantly learn, right? Like I don't have a plan exactly yet, all laid out. But I mean, a big piece of all of it really is empathy, is understanding that there are people that are in your that are not in your situation, and we should all be aware of how can we make the world a better place, make society better to help those people who are not born into the same situations that you are. So empathy for me underlies all of it. Mike Maximus says, imagine during the civil rights movement saying, yeah, but now is not the time, or hey, let's focus on what we can do instead of equality. I'm not sure what you're getting at, but yes. So your argument is, I would support Medicare for all, but you called me a mean name. Come on, well, enjoy your health care. Not what I said at all. Go back and watch the video. Actually listen with your ears. If you're trying to persuade people to join you in something, calling them cowards, calling them sellouts, calling them a bitch, and more, not a good way to persuade someone to join what you are doing. As I said, I support Medicare for all. I've done countless videos discussing our healthcare system in Canada, why it is so much better than the American healthcare system, even though we have gaps in our system. And I supported force the vote. I supported the David Sirota approach of basically, I think he had a list of like four or five different things. But go back and watch that video. I supported it, but I don't support the tactic of the people you want to get on board, attacking them to try and get them to join you. That's stupid, and it didn't. And guess what? It didn't work. It didn't work. So, who's right here? Am I wrong to think that it didn't work? Because from what I saw, it didn't work. Cami Schmidt, thank you for the super chat. Omar A says, I was a Jimmy supporter, but he's unrealistic. Liz Trollinger says, single good thing about Trump is the electorate is now awake and for better or worse, politicians will be held, and far better. I'm not reading this properly. Single good thing about Trump is the electorate is now awake. And for better or worse, politicians will be held accountable for their votes. I hope. I mean, the one worry, of course, is that people that don't want to pay attention to politics ever, like liberals, a lot of them will definitely tune out once Joe Biden's president. But if they're in a bad place financially, bad place in terms of healthcare or anything else, those people will be more engaged than they are normally. And because of the pandemic, I think a lot more people are going to be politically engaged than they were before Trump was in. And also because of Trump, I think that's also got them more engaged. Javier Ramirez says, hey, David, how long have been a media personality? Because you're almost to 400K, not bad. I started the channel in 2016. January 20. Actually, it's been about 5 years. So how about that? Been just over 5 years. Pretty cool. Danny F says these same people screaming force the vote are also downplaying the coup and don't seem to care that these lawmakers they're yelling at could have lost their lives. Yeah. Let me bring up a tweet from Humanist Report. Who, by the way, look, I don't talk all the time about, or ever, about how, about who I have, relationships with in terms of friendships with behind the scenes, in this space. But Mike Figueredo, one of the nicest guys in the world. He brought me on his show when I had 10,000 subs. I was nobody. He had a much larger audience. He brought me on and helped to expose me and was I would say the main person that helped grow my channel at the beginning. He's a fantastic human being. Great guy. He brings everybody. I mean, he's had discussions with everybody. He brings everybody on when they're still fresh, when they're still new. He's a great person. Anyways, he tweeted something about that. Let me see if I can bring it up. Sorry, all on the fly here. There may be a few tweets, but let me first see this. I saw this and was very happy about this. There we go. So first up, this. Kyle Klinsky tweets out, was Twitter right to ban Trump after the events of this week? 67.7% say yes. Great result here, because I completely agree. 100% agree. Here's a man who incited violence. What more do you want? So, of course, Twitter is not the U.S. government, in case you didn't know. It is an organization. They have a terms of service. They're allowed to put limits on what they want. And they made the decision that he went too far, and I completely agree. And I completely agree that they are right to ban him. And by the way, for anyone on the actual left, look, I get it if you fall into dumb arguments and you're convinced to think this is wrong. I don't blame you to initially think that. But here's a man who was the president. He can put out statements as the president. He's not blocked from putting out his statements to the public. Just going on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. Good. He doesn't need to be on those platforms inciting violence. So he can put out whatever he wants. He's not, if they banned, random Joe Schmo who has no audience, who isn't the president, has no power, that would be worse than banning Trump, because Trump is a guy who has power, has a platform, regardless, separate from Twitter, separate from social media. He doesn't need to be on social media. So no issue at all with that. Anyways, Mike Figueredo retweeted saying, "This is encouraging to see. I was starting to think a lot of people actually believed free speech included the right to incite an insurrection and that Trump's ban violates the First Amendment. Turns out I was just getting swarmed by chuds and MAGA adjacent leftists." 100%. A lot of this is definitely pushed by troll accounts, not real people. And those people, unfortunately, do convince some people that otherwise would be understanding of the ban here. But again, if you're one of those people who don't agree, I hear you. I get it. But I don't agree with you. And I think there's a great argument that they have a terms of service. He incited violence. It's Twitter. It's not the U.S. government. They can do what they want in terms of that. And he broke the rules. That's what happens. Anyways. Probably going to go in about a half an hour. Can't be here forever. I was gonna get into more drama potentially, but maybe I'll avoid it for now. It's not worth it. Where was I here? Russell says, small. I'm trying to figure out your short forms. Small company minimum wage is an issue because masses no real raises decades. So I know the chats limit your characters, so some of these unfortunately I have a hard time reading because you're shortening your words. But because masses no real raises decades, so subsidies good, tax rich for 30-year raises, they still funnel to small business. Yes. I mean, taxing the rich has to be part of any plan in terms of transferring wealth to the bottom half of society. 100%. After fractures, scrolled again on me. Says, sorry for the controversial question. I hope it doesn't get you in any Twitter beefs or anything. Congrats on the kid. Thank you. Fuse GT says, noticed GOP talking points are Twitter ban versus riot. I don't know what that means. Sasha Mullen says, mega congrats on the Kinderlotch. Is that a thing? Maple Dad for life. Thank you. Yes, Maple Dad. Justin Russell says, congratulations, David. Can you speak to the nomination of Mike Harris for the Order of Ontario? I don't know how much weight I put behind this stuff. I've never paid any attention in my life to the Order of Ontario before I heard Mike Harris was getting it. So I don't care. Obviously, he doesn't deserve it, but at the same time, history will treat these people properly, regardless of what awards or nominations they were given for things. David Sull says, congrats on parenthood. Enjoy every second because it only gets better. Signed, father of 3 adult daughters. Awesome. Thank you, David. Probably I could use a lot of your advice. Adam Bryceland says, hey, David, Twitter was right to ban Trump. Also, I don't think AOC and the squad are corrupt. Exactly, but they definitely seem too scared to stand up to Pelosi. There's definitely a part of that, but I think you have to understand their role. If they're just out there talking shit all the time, when there's a small minority of them, they would simply have less power overall. And if you think talking shit about Pelosi would give them more power, no, it wouldn't. In fact, it would possibly hurt their ability to gain some neoliberals over that are convincible. Liberals are convinced over to the left. It happens all the time. A large part of the left came from MSNBC, CNN, that began watching clips online, realized, hey, yeah, why is CNN being too kind to Barack Obama? Why is CNN or MSNBC not criticizing Obama over drone strikes or anything else? And that informs people. Same thing with Pelosi. You get people over who are questioning certain things. Why aren't Democrats fighting Trump the way that they should be? And that's how you bring a lot of people in to this side. So it would score. I mean, if the squad just 24/7, attacked Pelosi publicly, it would be entertainment for the MAGA chuds. But in terms of actually growing support, I don't know. I mean, that's our job. Like, that's my job. That's my job to go after her. That's how you begin to inform people. So, and by the way, AOC's first day in Congress, she was protesting in Nancy Pelosi's office with Sunrise Movement. There is a way to do this that is effective. And I would like to see more of that, by the way. I don't think they should do less. I think they should criticize Pelosi more. But it's how you do it, and it's when you do it, and it's why you do it. There's a lot of nuance there that people just think that people just gloss over. So do I think they should attack Democratic leadership more? Yes. But they shouldn't be YouTube commentators. There's a way to do it that would be more effective for them. And I think a part of that definitely is growing a movement outside of Washington that shows up in numbers, shows that they have the numbers, that the support is on their side and not on the side of the Democratic Party establishment. So that is a big piece of it. DVDV says, wait, what, you had a kid? Congrats. Happy New Year. Thank you. Joseph McDermott says, force the vote and Jimmy's mouthing off are not equivalent. That's a wash to imply they are. They ought to be given the same weight in the same breath. That is not how it was discussed. Absolutely not. I agree with you. They were different, which is why I supported force the vote. I mean, my actions agree with you. I supported force the vote. I did not agree with persuading people you want to win over by calling them bitches and sellouts and cowards. So I was doing that exact thing. I was separating those two things. Unfortunately, the way that it was presented to people, you saw the result. Brandon N. says, I don't think Biden will run a second term. Harris will likely be sworn in as president if something happens to Biden. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why they got to start that primary challenge now to Kamala Harris. Mikey Kingston. Okay, I'm going to get through these chats because I got to go back to my baby. Sorry, everybody. I got other priorities here. But I'll get through these chats and I will maybe hit on one more video. Let's see. I talked about the Trump Twitter ban. Talked about Bernie, that Bernie clip. I'm hitting a lot of issues here with your chat, so maybe I don't have to do more than just these chats. We'll see. Mikey Kingston says, turning my MA leftist watching, say hi. Oh, my ma. Turning my ma leftist watching, say hi to her. Her name is Lola. Baba Booey, Baba Booey, Baba Booey. Mikey Kingston always gets it in. Hey, Lola. How's it going? Glad you're watching. Ben Shapeward says, congrats, David. Doug Ford plus Mike Harris equals common stench devolution. It is now the odor of Ontario. Terry Mondon says, congrats, new daddy. Your platform is awesome. Thank you. Fuse GT says, thoughts on Amazon, Google, Apple Parler ban? I just heard about this in a tweet. It's their app store. I don't know. I don't know anything about Parler except for the fact that it's the Twitter of the right wing, is my understanding. If they want to ban, again, it's their platform. And just, it's funny for me to people. It's funny to me that people think this will somehow lead to what, like Twitter being banned? Like, what's this? Like, what? There is no leftist version of Twitter. Like that. So the only precedent this sets is that if you're a piece of shit, guess what? Maybe if you're a piece of shit, these platforms don't want you on their platform. If it ends up somehow eventually being that, I don't know, say a leftist Twitter exists and they ban leftist Twitter, then we can deal with that at the time. But it's not like that would exist. It's not like that would only exist if it happened to the right wing first. No, these things happen. They do happen in vacuums. They do happen based on the situation at hand. Right now, the situation at hand is a giant mob stormed the Capitol, broke in, destroyed things. 5 people were killed. Trump incited violence. That is the current situation. So that's the only thing you have to go off of right now. And that's like the idea that, the Apple Store one day is going to be like, well, you know, we banned Parler, so now we have to, we should ban Patreon because it's supporting a lot of lefty YouTubers. No, that's not going to happen. There's a terms of service, and if they feel that the terms of service was violated because they incited violence, that's what they did. So I just think people need to get a hold of things. There are many apps that don't make it onto Amazon, Google, Apple Store. They don't pass the certification process. That doesn't mean they were censored. It means they didn't pass certification. Red 7 Rogue says suspension of Trump's account abets to possible historical revisionism, and his account should be made public and locked instead. I do more agree with that. Yes. I think the issue with banning him is you can't see any of his tweets now. I think that's wrong. I think we should be able to view his past tweets as historical reference. I agree with that. So yes, I think that would be the better way to do it. Excuse me. Paul is plain saying Elon Musk is dragging the ICE companies kicking and screaming into the future. What is wrong with that? Buy an EV. What's wrong with that is he's a union buster. He does not support his workers the way they support him. He is not also the brains behind everything. He takes credit for everything that's done through his companies that are not him doing. He has engineers. He has a team on board. And the way the man is talked about as like some like incredible savant when he has a giant team of people that are doing the work for him. Is he a part of it? Of course, obviously. But by making him this sort of like incredible, big-brained wonder when it takes a team to do these things. And also, didn't his like Hyperloop turn into just like a tunnel for his cars? Like it was just, there's been some things where he's been given way too much credit over things that he never actually did. And I mean, for me, the bigger issue is the union busting. There are many, yeah. You got to support your workers when they're the ones that are bringing in the money, making you a massive billionaire. Asher Streets says need FCC overhaul, redefining news. FDA has restrictions for what can be labeled as vanilla. Isn't truth in journalism more critical and no poison? I got to think more about this. I don't know exactly how the FCC defines news. So I know in the 80s, I talked about this a lot in the past. Now it's like, now that I haven't slept in 3 days, I forget all of it. But there was something passed in the 80s that allowed sort of Fox News to become Fox News and not Fox Entertainment. And there needs to be sort of at least when it comes to certain aspects of I don't know, I guess cable. But if you call yourself news and you're just making shit up all the time, like OAN, unfortunately it leads to what we saw. So I'm not the person, I don't have all the answers, but there has to be a better way for sure to deal with this than the way that it's currently being dealt with. But that's the best I can do for you on my 6-hour sleep in 3 days and complete lack of research on this topic. Walid Damouni says Parler is owned by Mercer family that backed Trump during the 2016 election. Good. Then let it be banned. Screw them. All right. Is that it? Am I done? Man, this was something. So I would have had more to do. Maybe I'm back to work tomorrow. So at least that's the plan. So assuming everything happens normally and I can get back to work, I will cover anything I may have not talked about today, tomorrow. Let me just double check. I hate missing super chats. I'm just going to double check on the other link to make sure I'm not missing anybody. And then I'm going to get going. But I will have to possibly get some more sleep tonight for sure. Okay. Checking here. And maybe I'll check the normies in a second. Just give me a minute. Okay. It appears I got everybody. Thank God. All right. Reading the chat here. What's happening? Before I go. Asher Street says, thanks for your voice, David. Thank you. Go spend time with your kid, man. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. Thank you so much. All right. Definitely need to spend some time with him right now and also sleep. Thank you all for your kind words. Again, if you want to know a little more in the future on more personal stuff, though I will never get too personal, but rationalnational.com/join. That's the Patreon page. You can also join on YouTube. I will put up vlogs in the future that are a little more personal. Thank you all for supporting me and coming to this chat, even though I've been gone for so long. You didn't forget about me. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I also promise to be a little more unfiltered in the future, as maybe I was in this live stream. I just, at this point, what is there to lose? What is there to lose? All right. See you all later. Thank you all for showing up. And I'll be back this week. Goodbye.